I love you guys. You guys are the best. You guys are the best. Hello, my friends. This is Andy coming to you live from Orange County, California. It is February 16th at 6:30-ish. 6:30-ish. And my show last night caused quite a few comments. And even on my other show that I do with Hedia, the devotional that we do, there were a lot of people talking about my show last night. I was not happy with the lies about a police officer who gave his life in the line of duty. They lied. The New York Times, the Democrats lied about how he died for political purposes. And I think it's just a culmination of the last several months of how law enforcement has been demonized. We've been called systemically racist. I've been called racist. I've been called MFer. I've been called a whole bunch of names. Nazi. And what I wanted to do yesterday was come on and just kind of set the record straight that that is simply not the case. That most law enforcement officers are husbands and wives and fathers and mothers. There are many that are newlyweds. There's many that are engaged. There's many that are single young people that go out every day, even after the night before being attacked verbally or even physically. You had police officers in Seattle and Portland, New York, Washington, D.C., Minneapolis, all Democratic-run states that had fecal contamination thrown at them, fecal matter thrown at them, that urine thrown at them. They were lasered. They had trash can lids thrown at them, and they turned around and went back to work the next day. I want to know, those of you that work at Starbucks, those of you that work at an accounting office, those of you that are attorneys, those of you that work at a McDonald's, what have you, if you went into work and somebody threw fecal matter at you, urine at you, and then threw a trash can at you or tried to blind you with a laser, would you show up to work next day? I don't know many people that would. If the expectation was that nothing was going to change, that could happen again, which in many cases it did. They were going right back into the fire after the day before having crap thrown at them. And so yesterday I wanted to come on and share a little bit of my story. I'm a police officer of 21 years. I'm retired now. I've taught police officers all over the world, thousands of them. I've taught them tactics. I've taught them how to use police dogs, how to use detection dogs to fight crime. And this thought that systemic racism is actually a thing is just ludicrous. And so I'm going to address a little bit of that today, because somebody put a post, and I'm not sure if they are putting it on there to show me the bias that a title of a article can have, and then there's nothing to support the title in the body of the narrative of the blog of the article that they wrote. And that happens a lot, right? We see these inflammatory titles and then we read throughout the article. I'm waiting where the body, the information, the research, whatever it is, matches the title. And quite often, especially today, it never happens. Like the title is what we call bait click, right? Clickbait, sorry. I don't know why I said that backwards. Clickbait, right? You have a title that shows up in the description or a title of a post, and then people click on it, reading the whole thing. And they go, oh, Well, where was the connection between what happened? What was it going on in the body of that with the title? And quite often we find nothing. What I would appreciate is that if you all would comment and let me know what it is you think, especially those of you that disagree. I enjoy that just as much as the people that agree. But whatever your stance is, I would appreciate comments and let me know that you're watching. Let me know that you're alive, that you have an opinion on whatever it is I'm talking about. And I would appreciate that. So up above me, the reason I've left this up so long is because I want to get to this point. Go to patriotcoms.org, patriotcoms.org. That will send you a page where you can put your email address in, your name. I will not use it to sell you stuff. I might. Now that I think about it. But my stuff, my podcast or a Patreon page that I might have or something I might. So there is a possibility for that. But I'm not going to sell you like a Viagra or my pillow. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to use it to let you know where I am because of what is happening across our great country is that conservative Christians are being canceled from all these platforms. And it will happen. Even Patreon is canceling conservative Christian voices, as I found out today doing some of my research. But go there. This is not Patreon, by the way. This is to a platform called Kajabi. Right now, it seems to be fairly safe. Go there, put your email address in there, your name. It's all mine. I own it. I won't use it to do other stuff. If that doesn't work, put the W's before the patriotcoms.org and put your information in there. I'm going to get rid of the frame for a bit, and I'm going to go to the comments for 1 second. Hey, Don, nice to see you. Good evening from Southern California. Nice to see you. There are never statistics. Okay. There are never statistics, he says. I'm not sure what that means. Clickbait. I know I said bait click. I don't know what I was thinking. All right. So I wrote a couple of notes on there because I don't want to forget some of the things that I'm talking about. But systemic. Let's take a look at systemic. And this is get through. Hey, Hediya, nice to see you. I love you. I cooked the spaghetti. The kids are eating the spaghetti. Hediya, funny enough, Hediya is not here. She's at her home. Between us, we have 3 different homes. And she's at her home there in Ventura. And I said, what are you making? She goes, she asked me what I made. I have spaghetti. I go, what are you making? She goes, spaghetti. Go figure. All right. So the kids are enjoying the spaghetti. And so, sorry, I just have to share some personal moments here. But let's look at what systemic means, and then we'll talk about it because people are throwing it out there, right? You got talking heads on CNN and MSNBC and MSDNC, as some people call it, as Trump calls it, and NBC, ABC, whatever. And they keep throwing out this word, systemic racism within law enforcement, which does not exist. FBI, Yale, I don't remember all the universities done say. They say this doesn't exist. It's a myth that keeps being thrown out there, and people like that they use this word systemic racism in everything. There's apparently systemic racism in the United States. Apparently there's just systemic racism in law enforcement. There's systemic racism in all kinds of stuff that we do in university. I don't know. It's crazy. So let's look at this. And this is one of the popular meanings that's put on there. So we got systemic racism, a problem due to issues inherent in the overall, that's a really important word, overall system, rather than due to a specific individual isolated factor. So they throw this out, systemic. That means the entire industry of law enforcement is racist. The entire thing. Again, studies have been done where they said this is just simply not true. There may be individuals, which is the opposite of what systemic means. Again, if I go back here, that what they're saying is that rather than due to a specific individual or isolated factor, which we clearly have seen individual and isolated incidents of racism. Of course we have. We've seen it in hospitals. We see it in the financial industry. We see it everywhere. There are individual incidents of racism, of sexism, of attacks on white people. Right? We see it everywhere, which is another form of which is also racism, by the way. And it is in every part of the world, right? Specific individual isolated factors involving in racism. It exists. We know that. But it is not systemic. in law enforcement. It simply is not. I worked in law enforcement for 21 years. I've taught all over the world. And in one place that I do not see, barely, I told this story, but I've not seen racism. I've heard racist talk, but racism in the sense that people are being arrested based on a racist attitude, I have not seen. And there's a huge difference, right? Words being used in the locker room or what have you does not necessarily mean that there is a racist bias when it comes to arresting certain people. And this is where when I hear it, I just kind of go, these people have no idea what they're talking about. These are stupid people. They're either uneducated, stupid, or they are purposefully, which is more the case in regard to the media, they are purposely throwing out an agenda to cause a certain reaction. When they call Donald Trump a racist, when they call law enforcement systemically racist, they're connecting the two, because law and order is one of Donald Trump's policies, was one of his policies, and still is, and probably will in 2024 be his policy. And so, of course, they have to say policing is systemically racist because they're connecting it to President Trump. And they're constantly trying to make this connection. And if they can say the entire system is broken and systemically racist, then they have a platform to stand on in regard to dismantling and defunding law enforcement. But only if they can say and repeatedly say that it's a systemic racist organization. And that is their purpose for doing it, because they simply do not want law and order. They do not want policing, because I don't know why. That I haven't solved. That's the problem I haven't solved. Is it because it causes chaos? It causes a need for government? Is it because the most of the people that are calling for law and order to end is because most of them are unlawful people? Perhaps. I'm not sure. I can't quite put my finger on why the elite Democrats want chaos, lawlessness. I mean, they all live and engage in the communities. They hate and do not want school choice, but they choose to put all of their children in private schools. But they don't want the poor communities to have choice, right? They're against small and poor and mostly Black communities to not have school choice. But they definitely have school. They can afford to send their kids to other schools. They can pick and choose where their kids go to schools, and they can decide that school's not good enough. I want my kid to go to this school. They have that up. They have school choice. But in poor communities where they can't afford to send their kids to private schools for education, they don't want them to have school choice. They don't want them to have the opportunity that again, we're talking about elite Democrats, not about Republicans. Republicans want school choice. Is that the craziest thing? Is that they are calling Republicans racist, and Republicans are saying we want school choice. We think it's one of the greatest things that President Trump had as a policy, is school choice. Is that not odd to you when you're being called a racist? Wait a minute, you're calling me, I'm for school choice, and you're not. But yet you, as a white privileged person, are sending your child to a private school. Even the Black privileged people are sending their kids to a private school. But they don't want the poor communities, the people that can't afford it. No, we don't want you in our schools. God forbid. God forbid you come into our schools. That would be so freaking crazy. So when I address this first thing up here that I put on here, systemic. Systemic is just a word that causes emotion, that puts a label on something that's simply not true. So they can then say, we have to dismantle this systemically racist organization. We have to defund it. We have to dismantle it. It's just horrible. What do you put in its place? Chaos. And what you put in its place I'm going to bring up this article that I don't even know. I'm sorry. I don't know who the person is who put up the article in a comment of my show yesterday, but it was almost, and I'm not sure if he was trying to say, hey, there is racism, there is systemic racism in policing. But I'm not sure that he read the article. But again, but let me go ahead and bring it up here in just 1 second. That I read the entire article waiting for the point that they were trying to, give me here, in that they were saying, going to say that there is systemic racism. And let's go through the title. How the LAPD and Palantir use data to justify racist policing. Now, the Palantir is a software that allows law enforcement to collect data. Now, Hetty, I don't know if you use that software. I mean, it's possible. She was in counterterrorism with the FBI. I'm not sure if she used that, but it is a way of, gathering data of criminal activity, from small criminal activity to then identify those people that continue to commit, driving violations, to petty theft, to a bunch of stuff, and will help identify somebody that's going to commit a bigger crime later on. And that's one of the uses. And other aspects of enforcement of laws, of identifying problem areas, of identifying problem people, and identifying license plates associated with certain makeup people. It's a commonly used bit of software, and she did, yeah. And so you have this article, and I'm gonna bring it back up again, where it says that it's racist. LAPD is racist, and the software is racist. Racist policing is what it says there. And as I read through the entire article, I'm looking, and it starts off, of course, the first two words are the killing of George Floyd. The killing of George Floyd last May. And so again, and I'm trying to get to the point here, is that these words that they're using, in the order that they're using them, and never really get to the point of actually identifying. And you ask all the time, hey, show me the proof. Where is it that you can show me? I need to see the study. I need to see the proof that shows me that there's this systemic racism. And never has anybody given me any of that information. And they're saying, Andy, you're just a guy there in Brea, California. What do you know? You're not a graduate of Yale or Harvard. You're not, who are you? Well, I have testified as an expert in probably 60 to 75 federal court cases as an expert on policing and the biases of policing. And I can tell you right now that it is not slanted on one race over another. I've seen it with whites. I've seen it with Mexicans. I've seen it with blacks. I've seen it with Muslims. I've seen it with Asians. It's all, there is no bias in the bad policing because that's what I do. I testify in court cases more often against law enforcement because they make bad decisions, make bad choices, do bad things. But I cannot tell you that I can say, it's slanted towards one race or another. I think most of the cases I get are cases that involve white people. So I don't see it in the case. And I get a lot of case. I work for defense attorneys in many cases. I've worked for cases involving the border. I know a lot about the border, what's happening at the border. None of what you're being told, by the way. And so when we look at this article and it starts off this way, that they're trying to build this narrative, they, of course, have to use, oops, sorry. Oh, you didn't see what just happened. I'm trying to make it larger, but it's not working for me here. All right. So George Floyd may be sparked a renewed scrutiny of data-driven policing. And simply data-driven policing is not racist. And I'm going to tell you why. Even if the data is telling you that most crime happens in black communities, even if that is the case in data-driven policing, and I'm going to explain why. And as I go through this article, and I'm going to look at a couple of things, there's going to be some words that you see that I have written on the whiteboard here that have to do with things such as deploy police fairly to over policing. These are words that people like to use, trying to build a narrative against police. And they put in here, making sloppy investigative work seem objective. Where are some other words? I'm just so sorry. I'm kind of Brains, which is kind of funny. That's the name of the person who wrote the study, supposedly the study that never gets to systemic racism, by the way. Work as an unflinching look at what happens when people in power use emerging technologies. Her book is a completely original inside look at the development of big data surveillance at the height of the first generation of its adoption. He said, Sarah has been given access to the reality of big data policing in a way that no one else has, and probably because of her success, no one else ever will. Now, again, I'm reading a portion of that article, and the issue has to do with data, not with individuals of policing. And so again, I just want to, I hope that I'm articulating this correctly, but when you are attacking police officers and saying they're systemically racist, and you're blinding them, you're throwing stuff at them, you are wanting them to be funded, you want them to be dismantled, you want them to be fired, you want them to be arrested. That's not what this article addresses at all. But the title gives you the impression that it's racism. And the article is talking about this data research, and you got to understand the data is based on a couple of things that we cannot control as police officers. As I was a police officer, I did not control the calls that I got called on. I got the calls that I got and responded to the calls that I was given based on a phone call of somebody that was most likely a victim or a witness. Rarely would the suspect ever call. I'm trying to think, did a suspect ever call on himself? Yeah, actually they did. There's been some people that had a warrant out for the rest and they called for it. But in most cases, sorry. Victims and witnesses call us, and that is right down here when we're talking about calls versus self-initiated activity. Calls versus self-initiated activity. When we're talking about calls, the police officer's job, the law enforcement officer in the uniform you see driving around the patrol car, they are more often in the bigger cities like LAPD, Santa Ana, Anaheim, San Diego, Minneapolis, New York, Portland, Seattle. A police officer's job is to respond to the calls for service. You are responding to a call that has been created not by the police officer, but by the person who called. And we don't get a choice. We don't somehow pick and choose. I only want to go on the calls involving black people because I'm a racist. Never. That doesn't happen. It's impossible for it to be done. Police officers are only responding to the calls that they are given, and that is the majority of their job. I would say on a Friday night, Saturday night at Anaheim Police Department, when I was working patrol, even as a canine handler, for an 8-hour shift, there would probably be something like 35 calls a night. And then when we went to the 10-hour shift, that would increase by about 10. And then we went to a 12.5-hour shift, that would increase by another 10 or maybe 15 calls. So at the end of my career, when we were working 12.5-hour shifts, we would respond from anywhere from 40 to 50 something calls a night. Those are calls that I was given. I didn't have a choice. Now, if you were to look at all the calls that I went to in the downtown area of Anaheim, where the majority of the population is Hispanic, you would say, well, Andy, all the calls you went to involved Mexicans. And so you are racist against Mexicans, Hispanics, Guatemalans, El Salvadorians. You obviously have an issue with brown people. And you could probably say, if you looked at my logs, you would say everybody I arrested had the last name of Hernandez, of Jimenez, of Reyes. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of all the names now. Gutierrez. Why are all of your arrestees with a Hispanic last name? Well, I was working in the downtown area, and every call I got involved a Hispanic person. I don't know what to tell you, but you could easily say, well, you're racist. No, but that's the difference between calls for service and self-initiated activity. Self-initiated activity is a whole nother thing, and that means that you have some downtime, you're not receiving a call, and you know that a number of burglaries that have been occurring in an area, say in a commercial area in Anaheim, you would then park your car somewhere outside the perimeter, and you would walk in and you would hide in the bushes. What would we do it all the time? That would be self-initiated activity. You would put yourself out. Hey, I'm on a code 5. In other words, I'm staking out an area and a code 5, waiting to see if a crime might occur. And then again, it might be a white guy. It might be a black person. It might be a Hispanic. I don't know. I don't get to choose who's breaking into those areas. So when it comes to self-initiated activity, we're still kind of stuck with the person committing the crime. And if we're in the downtown area, I would say that the chances of being Hispanic is pretty high. So even in my self-initiated activity, it's going to be Hispanic. If we go to the west end of Anaheim, where there's a higher population of black people, we're going to have a larger number of calls that involve black people. If we're in the south end of Anaheim, we'd also have Hispanics, but we also have an Asian community. If we're on the Gaza Strip there on Brookhurst Boulevard, we're going to have a large number of our contacts with people that are going to be Middle Eastern. And we call it the Gaza Strip for a reason. That's what we call it. It's just Middle Eastern people live in that particular area. And we gave it the name. It's not called. There's no official Gaza Strip, but that's what we called it because that's the area that we have. Oh, that's so racist. I know. If we're in Anaheim Hills, it's white people. We could be, certain areas are a very high population of white people, Asian people, and then there's small little areas of Hispanics. And again, when you're going to those areas, we don't get to choose. In self-initiated activity, when we're looking for a crime to occur and we stop somebody, we don't get to choose the person that decided to go out that hour of the night and commit a crime. We don't choose. We don't look at we have a white person committing a crime and we have a black person committing a crime. We're going to go to the black person. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. We're not given a choice. We don't choose at the time that a person commits a crime. So I hope that that's clear. As far as law enforcement is concerned, now when we're talking about data activity, the data that's put in there, again, is more often than not. Now, could it be that you have an officer that spends way more time in when he's not deploying his policing more fairly? Is it possible? Sure. And that's where you're going to see individual racism. And that's where this can kind of skew the data that's coming in. Or maybe you have a team of people that have suddenly decided, we're going to really concentrate on this black area because we just don't like black people. Is it? Yes. But that doesn't make it systemic. Again, so my focus here is on systemic. Am I not on my camera? Yeah, I am. So is that making sense? And so we're back now to an individual choice or individuals who are choosing to be racist. And then again, now we have to deal with that. As a supervisor, my job as a supervisor would be to identify, hey, you guys are spending an awful lot of time in the Newton division, and your division, the area of your work is not Newton. Why are you in Newton? Well, because I'm racist. Why did I bring up Newton? Because Newton has had an issue with issues of heavy-handed policing, right? And a group of people, an individual group of people, who decided that they were going to do some things that were not kosher in a black community. Of course, they need to be fired. Of course, they need to be investigated. Of course, some of them need to be arrested. Of course, that's true. But that doesn't mean the entire system is racist. All right. I hope you're getting my point. I just so badly want to be clear on this area. Hey, Amy, nice to see you. Hedia says here, it's not by accident. The tactic is very malicious and intentional on the words that they use, on the attacks that they use, on how they title articles and then have nothing to support the title. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Hedia says the problem with the system is not racism, it's wealth disparity. Poor people can't afford expensive attorneys who get the wet. Thank you for that. That's gonna. Oh my gosh, Hedda, you are amazingly smart and beautiful at the same time. All right, so now maybe you saw it down here, but right down here, I have what's judicial versus policing. Now, as Hedda said, now. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is where the rubber meets the road, where the mayonnaise meets the sandwich meat, where the peanut butter meets the jelly. This is here, judicial versus, and we have to separate those two things. Because when people are talking about policing, more often than not, they're talking about the incarceration of blacks versus whites. What they're talking about is how a white person of wealth can afford an attorney, as Hedia says, that gets them probation or gets them a lighter sentence or gets them a better attorney that knows how to use the system better. And the blacks and the Hispanics and the lower income people have to settle for a public defender. Now, those of you that might be watching that are a public defender, I'm not saying you're horrible people. I am saying you guys are overworked because they're just busy. I work with public defenders all the time. And they're saying, I cannot keep up. I got to pick and choose these cases and which ones to just say, dude, you don't have a chance. You're going to go to prison for 20 years. And those that I may have a chance of getting them a lesser sentence. And that's kind of what we were dealing with in sex crimes, right? We have cases that, they're piling up and you're trying to go, which one has the most evidence? You have to make decisions based on the time you have to work on a case. And this is the problem which Hetty identified there so wonderfully. Thank you so much. Is that you have a judicial system that's overworked, overburdened, and you're dealing with the clear differences between what somebody with money can hire as far as an attorney who can take all of their money and focus simply one guy focusing on your case, not 50 other cases, unlike a public defender. And you get these huge disparities in sentencing, in being stuck in custody while their case is being heard, and they can't get out of custody because they can't get a court hearing or a court date and it gets continued, and just a whole number of things where the white guy or the black person who has money like O.J. Simpson can get out on bail sometimes, not always, but sometimes, right? There's even privilege in black people who have money and have wealth. If you can find the right attorney that will get you off. I mean, they got him out of murder because he had money. So it's the disparity, disparity, right? Disparity of the financial means of the person who's been arrested, regardless of the color. It just so happens that we have a large Black and Hispanic community that do not have the means to hire a high dollar attorney, that have the means to post bail, that have the means to hire a private investigator, that have the means to pay for somebody like me as an expert witness to come in at the rate that I charge. And I can't do these things for free because I have kids, I have a mortgage, I have a car payment. Right. And I would love to do some stuff for free, but I'm not in a position right now that I could do that. That would be great if I could, but I can't. And quite often with the CJA rules, they can't afford me. And I'm not really sure what to do with it and do about it. I would love to take a couple cases of people that can't afford me, but that's just the way our system works, right? And I think at some point, if I can ever afford to do some cases for free, I absolutely would. But that's the real world, right? When we begin to look at the real world, that is the disparity. That is if you're going to call anything racist, it's the judiciary area of our criminal system, not the policing. I am here to tell you that it's not the policing. Are there racist cops? Yes. Are there bad cops? Yes. Are there bad doctors? Yes. Are there bad veterinarians? Yes. Are there bad accountants? Yes. Are there bad politicians? Lord, yes, there's bad politicians. But to take and put a label on systemic racism on overall policing is just a lie. It is a myth. It is a lie. It is a horrific lie that is disparaging some really, really good people that are doing the right thing, that continue to go out regardless. They're not afraid to go out during this pandemic. The teachers' unions are, but not police officers. And they're going out there. It is really, but again, these are some very clear, and I thank you, Hedia, for bringing that up. Irony is, though, that they call us racist. President Trump was dedicated to judicial reform, and it was a hallmark of it. Absolutely. That was the other thing. And I didn't even think about bringing that up, but absolutely, Hedia, that was one. Again, he had so many policies that benefited the Black community, especially the underprivileged Black community. And he was continually called racist. And yet we have now the white guy who's supposedly not racist destroying all of those policies with a signature. With a signature. In regard to not opening the schools, that only affects and really hurts and harms the Black communities, the poor communities, the poor Hispanic communities. The only people that it's affecting are those people that can't afford to put their kids in a private school, which are all the elites, all the Democrats, all the people that you see on television, all the people on CNN, MSN, DNC, all the politicians, Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom, all of them have their kids in private schools. They have no problem dealing with this pandemic in regard to schools, in regard to their paycheck. They're all receiving a paycheck. They're all sending their children to private schools. And so they are all fine, but they have no problem saying, no, we cannot open schools. No, we cannot open certain businesses. No, we can't open churches. No, we can't do these things. And this group of people, the people that you moron Democratic voters voted for this idiot that's in the White House right now, is the exact opposite of what you claim to be. And what you claim Donald Trump to be. You claim that he's the elitist, that you claim that he was the racist. You claim that he was the one that was not for the little guy, when in fact it's completely the other way around. And when you talk about systemic racism, when you're trying to destroy people's lives, police officers show up every day, as I said yesterday, with these words, these little words, the titles of articles that in the end mean nothing, that they're all lies. When we're looking at the meaning of systemic, it means the entire set. It's not. When we're looking about things like over-policing, what does it mean? In the article, I talk about over-policing, that we go to an area that has a high crime. The data shows that there's high crime in a specific area. And they're saying in this article, it says it's bad to be over-policing that area. So what do you want us to do? Do you want us to send the police? And again, this is going to sound racist. It's going to sound elitist. It's going to sound like white privilege. But do you want the police to just simply go all to the Beverly Hills area? Like take all the numbers of police and spread them out equally to where you have little crime. Now, is there crime in Beverly Hills? Yes, there is. But when we're talking about the amount of shootings in a place like Chicago or downtown LA or in Newton division of LA and Minneapolis, and you have an area that's similar to Beverly Hills and these other areas, and you're going to say, well, if we have 25 cops, let's just spread them equally, and we'll have 10 in the Beverly Hills, and we'll put only 10 in Newton. Really? Do I want to be those 10 cops in Newton? No, because you're working your ass off getting shot at, and the other 10 cannot leave Beverly Hills. No, you have to over-police Newton and take some of the people out of Beverly Hills because they're sitting there picking their nose, doing nothing, reading magazines at 7-Eleven because there's nothing to do. You dimwits. Over-policing, that again, it's bad. That sounds bad, doesn't it? No, you want to put much resources, good, useful resources into an area that is seeing a spike in crime. That's not over policing. That is being smart with your policing. That's having common sense with your policing. You put more police in a crime-ridden area to reduce the crime. It's not racist to want to reduce the crime in a crime-ridden area. Freaking idiots. It's just laughable that when I see this in our over police, oh, you're over policing. Well, the people are dying. People are dying from not COVID, from being shot, from narcotics use, from committing suicide, from drive-by shootings, from carjackings, from robberies. People are dying. And so you don't pull police out of those areas because you're afraid that it's going to look bad. You put more police in there to protect the people of races, of color, that can't afford security in gated communities. You send more police in those areas. The rich areas, they have their own security. They have cameras. They have gates. They have walls. They have fences. They have guns to protect themselves. Over policing. What a stupid phrase. Deploy police more fairly. What does that mean? That's in the article too. Right? These are the things in the article that I guess are saying that police are racism because she wants to deploy police more fairly and she wants to stop over policing. Stupid. It's racist not to over-police an area. I'm just going to use her words. It's racist not to put your resource in an area that has a spike in crime. It is racist not to do that. Judicial force of policing, again, Hedia brought that up. That's not the police. It's when they get into an area where it's completely not fair. I accept that as a part of, I guess, law and order. That it's unfair in this area, not in this area. You get me? It's unfair in this area. And I think many people get that confused when they think about incarcerations, when they think about convictions, when they think about the attorneys that people are able to afford. That has nothing to do with policing. Nothing. Our job is just to arrest bad people, regardless of what color they are. White, Armenians, Middle Easterns, Black, Mexican. It doesn't matter. If they're doing bad, we're going to arrest them. We're going to handcuff them. We're going to take them in. And then they get into this area, and that's out of our control. Way more out of our control than I can even tell you. I've banged my head against the wall as a detective on cases that did not get court time, that they forced there'd be a plea and some other stuff. And I said, "What are you kidding me? It's out of as far as police, it's out of our control too." I fought with DAs, I fought with city attorneys to convict somebody, to push the maximum, and it fell on deaf ears. So we have, as far as police, we're limited in what we could even, how we could even affect this part. All right. So it's really important to understand the distinction. And then calls versus self-initiated activity. Now, again, we don't control the calls. And then quite often in self-initiated activity, we can spend a lot of time in a certain area. But again, if it's because that we need more policing because there's a spike in crime, then this self-initiated activity is perfectly fine. But if we're only doing it for racist reasons, and that has been done, then we call that person out, and the supervisor again should be the one that should be able to identify that and take care of it. All right. So I hope all this helped. I will actually, let me go ahead and put the link for this article. So you can, I want you to read it too. And maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed the point. Maybe I missed the facts that spelled out how LAPD is racist. I may have missed it. Again, I may have a bias where I didn't want to see it. I don't know. But I'm going to put the article, I'm going to paste it in the comments right now. So it's there for you if you want to read it. I read the entire thing twice. And I still I still don't see it. I mean, now they're using words. Again, don't get me wrong. The writer is using words like over policing, deploy police more fairly, and other words that try to get you to believe that there's something in here, in the data collection, in the way that they're using data, in the way that they're collecting data, and all this kind of stuff. She's using words that's trying to send your brain into a direction of seeing her point in the title. But I never found the body to support the title. I didn't see it, and I would love to hear from anybody that actually finds it and can actually get a hold of me and explain where I missed it. It is possible that I missed it, but because you're trying to get through the weeds to find where's the data that says where is it that says that they're racist? Where is it says even the data collection system is racist? I'm really not sure. I don't see it. So help me with that. All right, my friends, I hope this has been helpful. Please share this live, the replay with people, and like it. If you're watching the replay, please comment and let me know what you think. If you disagree, I'm not sure what the 13%. I'm sure I probably should know what that means. Somebody from Twitch, but 13%. I'm not sure what that means. It means something, I'm sure, but I'm not quite sure. Somebody has to explain it to me. Sorry, I'm reading through the comments here. Carol says, want to take on a probate case. I've been in it for 8 years. She lives in Santa Ana. I need help. Need a private investigator. Now, I don't have my private investigator license any longer, but I have a great friend who is a private investigator. He's been on the show from time to time. Oh, Carol, you know him, Chuck Knight. Chuck Knight is a private investigator. You might want to get a hold of him. If you need to get a hold of him, let me know. He does great work. Great man. Of course, you know him. A man with integrity. We work together at Anaheim Police Department. So, Carol, if you need Chuck's, I just don't have my license to do it any longer. And I don't have the software and the data collection processes that I used to have when I was a private investigator. So let me know if you need that. Good. I'm glad I looked at that comment. Walls are bad, like the Orange Man. Yeah, walls are horrible. Yeah, they all live behind walls, right? All the elite live behind walls with gated communities and their own security, and yet they want to defund police. It just is so freaking crazy. An overused word. Absolutely. All right, my friends, thank you for joining. Hedia, thank you for your input as usual. And Dawn and Carol and all the others. Amy, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. And I shouldn't do that because I know I'm going to miss somebody and somebody's feelings are going to get hurt. But But I appreciate all of you watching and spending your time with me this evening. And again, I hope that I try to clarify why this is an issue that is just nonsense. It's a nonsense issue. It's a myth. It does, and it's not like a myth like Nadler. He said that the rioting and looting and the issues with Chaz were a myth. I'm not, this is a myth. This is an actual myth. There is no systemic racism in policing. There is no systemic racism in policing. I know that me saying that twice is actually probably going to get me taken off YouTube again, but there isn't. There's nothing in regard to studies, data, me working in law enforcement for now almost 40 years, almost 40, not quite 40, almost 40, maybe more like 35 years that I've seen that is systemic. And so there you go. That's my proof. And I work on cases all the time on the side of the defense. And I would tell you, honestly. All right, my friends, I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Again, please share and like and comment. I would really, really appreciate it. All right, take care. Talk to you later. Bye.